the war on peptides is going on right now.
It is.
This is interesting.
To explain it is going to take a little bit of time, but I'd love to dig into it.
Let's explain it, because there is no reason why they would be banning these things other than for their own profit.
You got it. You get the gist of it.
That's the only reason. So there is no danger that these things are causing. There's no public health concern. There's no people dropping dead. But meanwhile, people are dropping dead from the ones that they have sanctioned.
Yeah, and so I like to tell people what you're seeing is a symptom of a disease. And the same thing we do in healthcare. We don't talk about the symptoms. We don't treat this. We unfortunately do treat the symptom and not the root cause of the disease. And so to diagnose what the real issue is, we've got to dig a little deeper into the history and what's going on there. And it's a pretty insidious disease, and it's spread throughout all of the government. And that disease is private industry and its influence on the federal government and the decisions they make. And we're going to talk a little bit about large language models later in the future of what I think healthcare is. But one of the critiques of large language models is it's only as good as the data you put in. And I would argue that humanity is no different. It is only as good as the data that you put in. And so if the federal government and the FDA is going to allow an open door policy with Big Pharma, they're going to come to the conclusions and decisions and policies that benefit Big Pharma. And so if we take a little walk through history, you'll see time and time again how this has happened. So I'm going to jump way back first, if you're good with this. So you go way back. There was a small little company that reached out to the Third Reich and said, hey, we need 150 participants for our clinical trial. The Nazi regime shipped 150 healthy Jewish women to this pharmaceutical company to test its products. Literally, within 6 months, there's letters back to the Third Reich from this pharmaceutical company saying, thank you so much for your cooperation. The women arrived in great health and working order. Unfortunately, none of them made it through the initial phases of our trial. They killed 150 women. We kindly request that you send us another 150 women. That little company became Bayer, which is now a mega pharmaceutical company. And I say that because, right, that was the 50s. It would have changed by now. That was forever ago, right? The world's a different place. We would never allow that today. Jump forward post-World War II. I talked about this on RFK's podcast. Eisenhower had that.
Can I pause on that? You said it was the 50s. It couldn't have been the 50s.
Well, the 40s, sorry. Okay. And so jump forward to, is there a way to turn the volume down on this?
Yeah, there's a button or knob right there.
There we go. So jump forward to Eisenhower's speech, his famous speech about the military-industrial complex. What a lot of people don't realize is there was a second half to that speech where Eisenhower warned the American people about the medical-industrial complex. He warned that if we allow private industry to control, monopolize, and profiteer off of health and healthcare, that they will silo innovation, stifle innovation, and capitalize and monetize innovation. And I would argue that's 100% what we've seen, and it's continuing. So, and the reason I want to walk the public through this is because to understand what's going on, you've got to see the history of how it's happened. So now you jump forward to the 80s. Okay, time and time again, when Big Pharma has had an opportunity to choose left or right, over and over again, they have chose profits over patient outcomes. So 1980s, Bayer launches a hemophilia drug. They inadvertently contaminate thousands of specimens with HIV. They know that they've contaminated specimens with HIV, this drug with HIV virus. What do? They have a decision, destroy all of it or ship it to the public anyway. They shipped it into third world countries, Africa and Asian markets, and infected 20,000 people with the HIV virus.
What?
This is the 80s when it was a death sentence. And so I say that to set the groundwork for Why would they ban peptides?
Look at this from this article. A division of the pharmaceutical company Bayer sold millions of dollars of blood clotting medicine for hemophiliacs, medicine that carried a high risk of transmitting AIDS to Asia and Latin America in the mid-1980s while selling a new, safer product in the West, according to documents obtained by the New York Times. Holy shit.
And two, everything I referenced, Jamie, because this was something last time, I am going to mention a lot of controversial stuff. So I've listed reference after reference after reference on the Ways to Well website. Anything that I reference will be on there as well. But so jump forward, they infect all these people with HIV. Okay. In the 80s, compounding pharmacies and specialty pharmacies and generic manufacturers attempted to create HIV treatment options that were affordable for third world countries. Because at the time, it was like $14,000 a month for an HIV treatment to keep you alive. Nobody could afford that in those countries. So what happens? Does Big Pharma, in a market they can't sell, in a market they can't touch, in a market where they inadvertently infected, or I would say almost knowingly infected 20,000 people with HIV, they then lobby with the U.S. government, file and sue the shit out of all of these companies that were attempting to make cost-effective generics. It caught it up in litigation for 3 years before finally they bent to the will of the American people and the feedback of the public. There was outrage over this. And finally, after 3 years of litigation, Big Pharma said, basically, screw it. Go ahead and give them the HIV, let them make these HIV meds in these countries that aren't buying our product anyway. And so I just say all this so you know the people we're dealing with, right? And then you jump forward to the opioid crisis, which was predicated by the Valium crisis of the, I think that was the 40s or 50s. And so time and time again. And so how does the FDA come to these conclusions? It's because a majority of their funding comes from private industry, and a majority of their discussion, their talk track, their influence, their belief systems, and their thought processes are being influenced by these companies. So when we talk about peptides today in specific, there's over 7,000 peptides on the market, okay? What peptides didn't get banned? That answers the question in itself. The GLP-1 agonists, insulin, those aren't banned. Those are all patented peptides. These are peptides. These are short-chain amino acids found naturally in nature. They were patented for the dosage and delivery mechanism because you cannot patent a molecule. You can only patent the delivery mechanism and the dosage. And so the FDA allows all those peptides, but it's because Big Pharma is monetizing them and Big Pharma has their ear.